major premise behind the textbook used in educational technologies is the concept of monitoring your own learning, what is referred to as self-regulation. This is an important concept that suggests that you can not only incorporate strategies to determine how to learn something new and to monitor whether those strategies are working, but that you can teach these strategies to others. In the textbook, we use a simple acronym called the GAME Plan to help you develop and model those strategies. Most educators are familiar with the work of Benjamin Bloom and his colleagues who presented the taxonomy of educational objectives in the 1950s. The taxonomy essentially suggests that learning activities can increase in cognitive complexity depending on the type of activity students participate in. The original taxonomy suggests that learning objectives increase in cognitive complexity from skills that require knowledge and comprehension at the lowest levels, through application and analysis, to synthesis and evaluation. When we encourage students to analyze, synthesize, and evaluate, we're asking them to use what are usually referred to as higher-order thinking skills. Hopefully, the activities in the Educational Technologies class will give you lots of opportunities to use these thinking skills. In 2001, a revised version of the famous taxonomy was released. While there has been some minor revision of some of the categories and a reversing of the top two categories, the major difference in the new taxonomy is that it is no longer one-dimensional. The educational researchers who revised it, some who worked with Bloom, suggest that along with the cognitive processes originally described by Bloom, each also contains a knowledge dimension. The knowledge dimension is also hierarchical, and at each level of cognition, students may be required to master or comprehend factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, procedural knowledge, or metacognitive knowledge. This last, metacognition, is a key component of self-regulated learning. Metacognition is often referred to as thinking about thinking. These are self-checks we perform to determine whether we've learned something new or even to determine the quality of our own performance. Metacognition has received significant emphasis in education recently as an important component of helping students become self-directed learners who are able to adapt to the rapid changes of our society and to continue to grow and master these challenges throughout their lives. When we engage in metacognitive behavior, we're monitoring our own learning. You already do this. You may use a variety of strategies that work for you in different settings, but novice learners may not have developed strategies to be metacognitive, or they may use ineffective strategies. Luckily, we can teach learners to use strategies to monitor their learning. One such framework, the GAME Plan, is used in the textbook and several of the activities in educational technologies. The GAME Plan is simply an acronym for 4 steps you can take to be a more self-directed learner. It grew out of the development of a course for education majors in the late 90s and showed to be significant in terms of improving students' use of self-monitoring strategies. Throughout the course, you'll get the opportunity to practice these steps, and hopefully you'll be able to model them for your students, as they are adaptable to any content area or grade level. In fact, the GAME Plan is a framework that supports the concept of formative assessment, which is one of the most significant trends in education currently. The GAME Plan is covered in detail in Chapter 2 in the textbook, where you can learn more about it. Here, I want to emphasize how to successfully address the components of the GAME Plan in the activities throughout the course. I found that some people are unused to some of the steps and are especially unused to using them to guide their own learning. As teachers, we're often focused on what our students are learning. In the GAME Plan, you're the student and the teacher. It's all about you. The first GAME Plan activity occurs in Unit 1. It's typical of the GAME Plan format as it requires you to set a personal learning goal, determine actions you might take to achieve your goal, monitor those actions to see how well they're working, and evaluate how you met your goal. In many cases, like this one, you are being asked to formulate a plan. You don't have a lot of time in a single week to carry through with an extensive plan. That's okay. Develop a plan you might follow and do as much of it as you can. The idea is to get used to the steps, 2 of which seem to give people more problems than the others. The first problem many people encounter is setting a personal learning goal. In all of the activities, you should think about your own learning. I know many of you work with students or plan to work with students, but this course is about you, your skills and knowledge, and developing them. The GAME Plan activities are designed to help you develop your own personal learning goals. Generally, if your goals begin to start mentioning students, stop. Recoup and refocus on yourself. By the way, helping students to learn to set their own learning goals is a critical component of many formative assessment models. So if you've taken any classes or training, or your district has adopted formative assessment strategies, it's likely setting learning goals will be a big component. I think the one step that most people struggle with is monitoring their own learning. Often we're so focused on getting to the end of a project that we forget to monitor the effectiveness of what we're doing. Experts use different learning strategies than novices do, who tend to randomly attack problems or use trial and error. We're all a novice in something. Simply having a few common strategies you can use to address new problems can give you a head start and help you be more effective, like an expert. There are many different strategies students can use to monitor their learning. Instead of a comprehensive list, consider which of the following are common strategies you like to use. Planning the sequence and timeline for completing a goal. Keeping records like a calendar, notebook, or portfolio to document your work. Some people like to complete their work in a structured environment. For me, it would be a very quiet place with the door closed. For others, it might be a coffee shop or the library or somewhere where they can listen to music. Different people like different environments. Many people like to reward themselves once they get something accomplished. You might watch TV, go shopping, or read a fun magazine or a book. Recently, I took myself to see a movie and had popcorn after meeting a big deadline. May not be what you'd pick, but it was rewarding for me. Some people are social learners and will turn to friends, teachers, or others for support and guidance. Don't be afraid to ask them. You'll meet several people through the discussion board, and I'm always available to help, especially by email. These are just a few common strategies that learners can use in just about any situation at any grade. As you complete your game plan activities, consider which ones work best for you and incorporate them into your response. To make it easier, I encourage you to use the following prompts to start off your game plan responses. They should work for every game plan activity in this course. Just keep them focused on your own learning and you'll do well. Those prompts are: my goal is, or my goals are, depending on how ambitious you want to be in a week. The actions I will take, and these are the actions you're going to follow to meet your goal. I will monitor my actions by, and consider the actions I just presented or make a list of your own preferred actions. And finally, I have learned, or I hope to learn. In a week, you might not reach your learning goal. That's okay. Remember, part of this is learning about how to cope with change and being a lifelong learner. In that case, let me know what you hope to learn. It's a good idea to have an idea of what success might look like, so you know where you're headed. You may not want to be so literal in your responses, but I can guarantee that if you have 4 paragraphs or 4 sections in your response, each starting off with one of these prompts, you're pretty much going to cover all the required material for a game plan. I hope this short presentation helps better explain the game plan activities and how your responses can be shaped to address them. Remember, it's all about you. As you practice and build your self-regulation strategies, I hope you'll be able to model them for students so that they too can become self-directed, lifelong learners.